Hello and welcome back to Good Game Nation, where we bring you all things TCG. My name is Preston. I'm here with Sam. Say hello.
Hello, it's Queen. We're here today on Monday. Guess what? It's Meta Monday Day, where we feature decks that we found interesting in the meta. We're doing a little bit of set two today. We
Get
found some
those
cool.
meds off the screen.
We
Hurry.
found some cool set two decks that we wanted to talk about, so we're gonna bring those to you.
I
We
love
have the
Queen.
gentleman that played Z in the last large tournament. That was the Tokyo one, I believe.
Yeah, it took
At
part
Tokyo,
two.
here it's right here. If I would have clicked it, uh, we have the deck. He plays top four. We're gonna get into it. He has a YouTube video as well. It's all
Mhm.
linked down below. So if you want to check out his review of the deck and his thoughts, it'll be right there. But for us, we have it here on Dev. Dev, we keep always use it. It's always down below. We're gonna go
Yeah,
through what we think, how we think it's gonna do in a in the meta. Obviously, it
yeah,
did well.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Go watch that video. He explains his purpose for all of these. We're gonna kind of theorize over what I remember from that video, but then they play a match against Zoro, so you can actually see it in action. So go check that out. Give them some love. Give them a thumbs up and tell them that Good Game Nation sent you. That would be hilarious to
Ooh, that
see.
would be hilarious.
Don't comment on this video, comment on their video. Anyways, we're losing it over here. This deck is insane. Can you scroll down and just show the people how many counters this has?
Absolutely, well, yeah.
Yeah, that's that yellow line right there. Uh, it says 20.
Sure says at
Uh,
20.
that's insane. When I watched the video, they were kind of like going through it, and I started counting. I was like, okay, that's some counters. Okay, that's some counters. That's too many counters, and it's
That's
not.
too
It's
many slices. Yeah, yeah. That's so far.
um, yeah, but it's not. For this deck, it's perfect because you're going to play very defensively at some point, and you're not going to want to waste your Dawn on blockers. You're going to waste your Dawn on Kuzans and Borsalinos. So you're running 20 2K counters. Um, when we were talking about this deck, we were talking about the variety that you have with these two colors, and I think we know why the Sasaki's there. It's a ramp option. Um, Same reason that the Jack is there. You want to hit at least one ramp. I think in an ideal game, you hit one ramp on turn three. But the rest of them, you were saying that you most likely are playing Garp as a 2K. Who are the other guys? I'm forgetting.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about this color is when building, I think you always want it somewhere between 16 and 20 2K combos, and black and purple have a plethora of very good on play options, and we have five of them here. I really like the on play from Zuru. I like the one from the starter deck Tashiki as well. It's activate main. You tap her and she minuses two. I like Shiki, who's a trigger that you could play. That's also a 2K combo. You have tons and tons of options that really cater to how you want to play in your own meta. We chose Sengoku and Garp. I think this is a really nice combo to pick off some really small targets, which we're seeing a lot of, obviously, in set two. I think this is really good into Kinemon specifically. Um, yeah, I think this is really clever. And we were talking about how many playable cards there would be if we have a lot of 2K combos, but these cards are very playable. I think Garp is like I said the most key because when you have Kuzan established, you're just punching
Wiping
target.
one.
Yeah, you're just punching off targets one by one. I really like the Smoker ad as well. I think usually before a lot of the four counts were very common. But they were playing two kings, either the 6 drop or the 7 drop, because with Kuzan on the board you can clear a lot of targets. But I think if in an ideal turn you would go probably skip your turn one, turn three ramp into Jack, and instead of playing a 6 drop king, which we are very accustomed to from set one and most purple set two, you would play a Sakazuki.
Mhm.
Um, so you don't really need, I think, this king play. I think Smoker gives you a little more offensive tempo.
Mhm.
So I really like this deck. I think it's very clever, and definitely a good starting point for when we get our hands on set two, and we have a Z starting point, so we can just continue where they left off.
Yeah, absolutely. Put a little spice in there, but take the bones and run with it.
Oh, absolutely.
Um, the deck got top four in Tokyo, like we were saying. Probably could have done better if it had a different matchup. Um, just because it just has the nuts, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Just being able, like, when I'm playing, I'm like, okay, I need to hold my 2Ks. I need to make sure I play my stuff without counter so that I'm not stuck with a bunch of trash in my hand that I can't play out at the end of the game. There's no trash here. We were talking about like your turn six playing Sakazuki just now. Your next turn, you're at eight. You have so many options for an eight Dawn turn. You can do Kuzan or Borsalino or both if you want to tap out. You could do either one of those and Garp to just have a disgusting field presence to go into Kuzan to the point where you establish Kuzan. Garp is clearing pretty much everything on board. Um,
Yeah.
so it has a really good curve. If you hit one ramp, it's basically perfect. And you're hoping it's Jack because you don't want to wait for this Sasaki to get going. But it's there and it's another option at three drop.
You,
Um,
even when building this deck, there's so many cards that you want to play. It gets really tough. Like a Kuzan, when I was originally building, was a tough card. It doesn't have combo power, so it was a early card that I found a little struggle with. But even if you miss your ramp and you play establish your Garp with the Kuzan play, Kuzan and Garp, Kuzan -4 when he attacks as well. So
mhm.
Kuzan and Garp can absolutely just run early game tempo as well and just clear and clear and clear. There's a lot of really cool synergy here with the black and purple, and we knew that when we got the cards. We saw the minusing of entrance cost, and we knew that purple was going to be the color to abuse it. And even though we're not playing the kings, it's still here, and it works really well together. So
Yeah. Yeah, you very much could swap out a smoker for a king.
yeah.
Um, Sakazuki, I think, is probably a slightly better play than those, and that this pilot saw that.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you do end up getting Smoker online and being able to attack with him, the threat of double attack should scare people.
Mm-hmm.
It really is a huge equalizer when you're already starting with four life. If you can get a double attack off and they can't do anything because he's an 8K,
Mm-hmm.
that's above our. He's starting at a good threshold for your five cost or your 5K leaders.
Mm-hmm.
7K is a great spot to swing at. He's swinging at eight, so he's threatening even Whitebeard.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that's a wild play. So I think this deck is superb. We will probably see a lot more of it at the towards the end of set two.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I hope that when the West gets set two, we just pick up where they leave off, and just run. It should be
Yep.
great.
This fits the West meta too. I think a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ooh, and getting into more spice for set two, we have a Kaido deck. Kaido's been a leader that we have seen a little bit. He's not fading away. He hasn't really won, but he's always in the top eight. He's always there are always a few in the top 16, and we found a very fun, interesting list for sure. We want to get into. Shout out to One Piece top decks. Again, they'll be linked down below. And here is the list. And yes, we talked a lot of. I've said a lot of things about a lot of the set two mechanics, but here it is, and almost in largely affects a lot of the cards here. We have Hannibal.
Yeah. I will continue to talk crap about set two purple because it's a splashable thing. It's not a thing. I think it really weakens purple overall. And we've seen that in the meta. It's not as relevant. There's one or two topping big tournaments. Locals, you'll probably still see this because it's accessible and should be pretty easy to get your hands on the cards that are playing from set two. Um, Especially if you played purple set one. But there's Hannibal to be your searcher. Purple didn't have a good searcher set one, so we get some speed out of this. We get a little bit of deck movement. His targets are a blocker, a 2K combo, an on play KO, and probably one of the best counter events in the game. That's pretty good. You have to hit them, but that's pretty good.
18 impale down cards isn't my ideal number. I'd probably want to see it somewhere closer to 20 to 25. But the cards that we are pulling out, are good cards. Where we swapped out Domino for from Black Maria. They're the same effects, but we have Impel down, so we're able to search her. Plus, Sadie is a 2K combo that's searchable. Plus, Shiru specifically against Red, which has been the most next to Kinemon, has been the most showful deck. So KOs one cost or less with one Don value, and Hell's Judgment is. Heaven sent event card that's saving purple set 2 right now. Very good card that we could pull out. So yeah, you're absolutely right. We're pulling out good cards with Hannibal, and it helps this weak early game from purple. That if you've been playing purple in set 1, you've acknowledged. You're playing a bunch of 2Ks just to survive to get to these late game cards, and the late game cards are in full effect here. We're playing high counts. It's nice to see that the set 2 is not going to waste, that someone is playing them, and maybe we should start playing them.
Yeah, I mean, Hell's Judgment is playable in any form of purple. Moving forward, hitting 2 different characters is ridiculous. Other than the set 2 stuff, this is, I think, a pretty standard purple deck. Like, you're running Jax for ramp, that immediate ramp that we were just talking about. You're playing X-Drake for the 2K counter, plus an option to play at any point because its effect is pretty nasty. Running 7 versions of King, which is pressure. You don't want to see King if you're playing against him. Losing 7-drop King, losing 2 cards on board. And when you think of red and green being so
board present heavy,
you're hitting 7-drop King and just sitting back watching them go, well, half my board's gone. And even playing against Law, you're losing 2 cards that you have to reestablish. That sucks. And then they're running 1 9-drop. I would like to see more, and 3 10-drops. I would like to see less. I hate that card. I do. It's just.
You're right, and this is I think you're hitting something on the head, that this is very close to what we are seeing in set 1. I think the King count's usually 6, but that's such a minimal thing. Blast Breath is usually at 4, but we have Hell's Judgment, so we don't need Blast Breath as much now. Was speed all that we were lacking? This little bit of tempo coming out of Hannibal, was that really what we were missing to compete with green? Maybe so, because the end game already dealt with what we have been seeing from red and green. So if this little bit of tempo is all that we were missing, kudos to this player. So give it a try. Maybe this is what we were missing. A little bit of Hannibal in our life. And and our last deck, we have another Kaido deck. This is a blue-purple Kaido. Little local, 4-1. He doesn't like rubber a little bit. He wants to adjust it. But Uda-chan, amazing. Let's get right into it.
Yeah, so this is a leader that I have not seen very much of. So since this game has come out, I think I might have 2 lists in my Meta Monday contentions, and they both came within the last week or so. So this leader is very underutilized. I expected it to be a little bit more used in set 1, especially in the West, because I feel like that leader effect is pretty darn great for the type of meta I think that we want to play.
Yeah.
But I just haven't seen it.
Yeah.
So other than that, this is a pretty good option deck. So go ahead and tell me what you think.
It's you're right. I think it caters to the West as well. Maybe we'll see it more. It's still really early here. But thinking about what's good first in the meta, a lot of decks that are featuring character cards that are being played. I think that was the reason in set 1 where we can pass turns or just be effective with our leaders and not necessarily have to play anything, which hurts Kaido. But in set 2, where we're forced to play cards, where decks are swarming the board, Dodons, Namis, greens are swarming with Kinemon. Kaido seems to be a very effective leader with just as a leader effect. We could ramp twice or even 3 times in a turn. That's it's very hard for colors to come back from that, and we're seeing that it's obviously very effective. We're playing 4 of the 10 drop. We're that confident we can get to 10, not just once, twice. That's what I'm getting from that. And he said he doesn't really like it, but I think Gomogo no Rain in a deck that features a lot of cards without 0 combo power is very, very effective. Gomogo no Rain was a card that when we saw it, I necessarily didn't think of Blue Purple Kaido, but I think it has a very, very strong position here in this deck. So I'm really into that combo.
I like Rain just because it's going to catch your opponent off guard. They're not going to expect you to have any event counters, and being able to tap out and then go, I still have a plus 3K, gotcha, is incredible. On top of that,
Gotcha.
we're running, yeah, gotcha. I actually have a 3K, and your 7K attack doesn't matter right now. Plus, we're running a decent amount of 2Ks, so this deck is probably a little bit slower than our average meta, but I think it's playing into that with a couple extra blockers. Not a couple, a lot of extra blockers. We're running 5 blockers just off from what I can see right now, and they're the decent blockers. We have really good early blockers. We have Hancock and Uda, which Uda's like you'll hear us gush about Uda all day. Can't wait for it to be in the West so that we actually get to use this great card for purple.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Queen, which is probably one of the best cards in the game, just off of all the things that it can do. So this deck seems like it fits in really well for this meta, and even as a slight counter as trying to clear your opponent's board and just take advantage of every little bit of what is possible with these 2 colors.
Queen and Extric have been in each deck at 4 counts. I just want to mention that. Shout out to them. They're the real MVPs, probably on the thumbnail. They are. I think this deck, again, I don't think there's. You mentioned it off camera. There's only 6 set 2 cards. So this deck obviously wasn't rebolstered by a good set 2 purple, obviously. And blue set 2 was a very specific mechanic, so it didn't really help the Kaido leader himself. But I think the timing of the meta helps Kaido. I think if we could ramp just a little bit, get to an early 7, or even maybe you could even put in a couple 6-drop kings. If we could hit those counts and get king in a really early turn, it's very hard for decks to come back from that. So I think it's in a good spot on the meta, and I think with maybe a couple of different editions of this deck, we can maybe find a stable place for it, because we have a lot of good blockers that have a lot of good curve and tempo with Boa and Uda. So it's just I think it's good timing for this deck. It's a cool deck, and hopefully we give it a try. Set 2 is coming soon for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, we'll be testing this deck out just to see how it stands up to the rest of the meta and if it is as good in play as it is on paper.
Absolutely. And that would do it for. I'm going to leave this up. That would do it for Set 2 Meta Monday, guys. We have Treasure Cup coming up next week, so this is probably going to be the last little Set 2 news we see for a while. We're going to be just featuring that. So with Treasure Cup coming up, let us know, guys, what decks you guys want to see. We'll do maybe a little poll. It's already out, maybe. What decks you guys want to see us talk about? If it still is Zoro and the aggressive decks, let us know. If you're in a more tempo endgame range deck with Dofis or Kaidos, tell us. We want to know. Yeah. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you're still here, please do all the YouTube things. Like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.